Captain Jinwoo checked his weapon one last time before stepping out of the transport ship. The red soil of Kepler 442 crunched under his boots as he walked toward the smoking wreck in the distance. His 3 soldiers followed behind him, their faces hidden behind combat masks. "Sir, the crash happened about 2 hours ago," said Private Lee. "Our sensors picked up the ship when it entered our space. It was moving fast and didn't respond to our calls." Jinwoo nodded. After 15 years of fighting the Valith Empire, he knew their ships well. This one was smaller than usual. Maybe a scout ship or a messenger. The metal was bent and twisted from the hard landing. Steam rose from the damaged hull. "Stay alert," Jinwoo told his men. Could be a trap? The Valith were smart enemies. They had been at war with humans for 20 years now. Jinwoo had lost many friends to their attacks. His own brother died when they destroyed the colony on New Sol 5 years ago. The memory still hurt. They moved closer to the wreck. Jinwoo could see a hole in the side of the ship. Black smoke poured out. The ship was definitely Valith design. Smooth curves and that strange blue metal they used. But something was wrong. No return fire, no movement. "Thermal scan shows 1 life sign inside," reported Sergeant Kim. "Weak but alive." Jinwoo frowned. Usually Valith ships had crews of 5 or more. Why was this one alone? He motioned for his team to spread out around the ship. They had done this many times before. "Cover me," Jinwoo said. He approached the hole in the hull inside the ship. Red emergency lights flashed on and off. The air smelled like burned circuits and something else, something sweet and strange. Jinwoo had never been inside a Valith ship before. Everything looked different from human ships. The walls curved in odd ways. Strange symbols glowed on broken screens. He heard a sound, a soft moan from deeper inside the ship. Jinwoo raised his weapon and moved forward. His boots clicked on the strange floor material. Another moan, weaker this time. Jinwoo turned a corner and stopped. There, trapped under a fallen beam, was a Valith. But this one looked different from the warriors he had fought before, smaller. The skin was pale blue instead of the darker blue of Valith soldiers. Long white hair spread across the floor. And the eyes, when they opened and looked at him, were bright violet instead of the usual silver. It was female. Jinwoo had never seen a female Valith before. The males were the ones who fought in their wars. Females stayed on their home planets, or so human intelligence reports said. She tried to move but cried out in pain. Her left leg was bent at a wrong angle. Blood, purple blood, stained her simple gray clothes. She looked at Jinwoo with those strange violet eyes and said something in her language. Her voice was weak and full of pain. Jinwoo kept his weapon, pointed at her but called out, "Kim, get in here." The sergeant appeared a moment later. He saw the trapped alien and whistled low. "A female? That's new. Help me move this beam," Jinwoo ordered. "Sir, are you sure? Could be dangerous." Jinwoo looked at the injured Valith again. She was trying to reach something near her hand. A small device that had fallen from her pocket. Her fingers could barely touch it. She was hurt badly and getting weaker. "She's no threat right now," Jinwoo said. "And Command will want her alive for questioning." That was true, but Jinwoo knew there was another reason. He had seen too much death in this war. Too many bodies on both sides. Looking at this hurt creature trapped under the beam, he felt something he had not felt for a long time. Pity. Kim helped him lift the heavy beam. The female Valith gasped as the weight came off her leg. She tried to sit up but fell back down. Her face was very pale, now almost white instead of blue. "Get the medical kit," Jinwoo told Kim. "Sir, we don't know if human medicine works on them." "We'll figure it out." Jinwoo knelt down beside the alien. Up close, he could see she was young, maybe the same age as his sister would have been. Her breathing was quick and shallow. She looked at him and spoke again in her language. This time her voice was softer, less demanding. She pointed at the small device near her hand. Jinwoo picked it up carefully. It looked like some kind of communicator, but the screen was cracked and dark, broken, he said, showing it to her. She seemed to understand. Her violet eyes filled with something that looked like sadness. She spoke one word that sounded almost like a human word. Home. Jinwoo felt something twist in his chest. Even enemies missed their homes. Even enemies could be hurt and scared and alone. Private Lee appeared in the doorway. Sir, we should go. More Valeth ships might come looking for this one. Jinwoo nodded. He looked at the injured female. We're taking her with us? Sir, she's a prisoner of war. Command will want to question her. Jinwoo stood up. Carefully get her on the stretcher. Watch that leg. As they lifted her onto the medical stretcher, the female Valeth looked at Jinwoo again. This time there was something different in her eyes. Not fear exactly, but confusion. Like she was trying to understand why these human enemies were helping her instead of leaving her to die. Jinwoo wondered the same thing. By all rights, he should hate this creature. Her people had killed his brother and thousands of other humans. But looking at her pale face and hurt eyes, all he felt was tired. Tired of war and death and hate. The trip back to base took 30 minutes. The female Valeth, Jinwoo, found himself thinking of her as Nari, though he did not know why, drifted in and out of consciousness. Sometimes she would look at him with those violet eyes. Sometimes she would whisper words in her own language. At the base, the medical team took over. Dr. Park, the chief medical officer, had never treated a Valeth before, but he did his best. The alien's leg was broken in 2 places. She had lost a lot of blood and had a head injury. Will she live? Jinwoo asked. I think so, Dr. Park said. But she'd be here for a while, weeks, maybe months. Colonel Han, the base commander, was not happy about having a Valeth prisoner. I don't like it, Jinwoo. They're dangerous. Even the females. She's hurt badly, sir. And she might have useful information. Maybe. Colonel Han looked through the window at the unconscious alien. Keep her under guard at all times. And Jinwoo, good work today. Your father would be proud. Later that night, Jinwoo sat in his quarters writing his report. He kept thinking about those violet eyes and the way she had said home. He thought about his brother and all the friends he had lost in this war. He thought about the fear he had seen in her face when she first looked at him. Tomorrow, the real questions would begin. Intelligence officers would want to know everything, where she came from, what she was doing alone, what she knew about Valeth military plans. Jinwoo hoped she would cooperate. He hoped she would heal quickly and give them the information they needed, but most of all, for reasons he could not explain, he hoped she would not look at him with hate in those strange violet eyes. 3 months had passed since the crash. The female Valeth had healed well, though she still walked with a small limp. Dr. Park said her leg would never be quite the same, but she could move around without pain. Her name was Nari. Jinwoo had learned this during the long weeks of questioning. She spoke some basic human language, learned from stolen data files her people had collected during the war. Her voice was soft and musical, very different from the harsh sounds of male Valeth warriors. Commander Jinwoo, he had been promoted after bringing in their first live Valeth prisoner, stood outside his quarters holding a data pad. Colonel Han had just given him news he did not want to hear. She's your responsibility now, the colonel had said. The rehabilitation program starts today. High Command thinks having her work in a normal household will make her more cooperative. They want to show other Valeth that we treat prisoners well. Jinwoo sighed and pressed his thumb to the door lock. Inside, his quarters were clean and organized. Too organized. Everything was exactly where he had left it 3 days ago. The bed was made with perfect corners. His desk was arranged with all items at right angles. Even his books were lined up by height. Nari sat on the small chair by the window. She wore the simple gray clothes all prisoners were given, but somehow she made them look almost elegant. Her long white hair was braided down her back. When she heard the door, she stood up quickly and faced him. Commander, she said. Her accent made the words sound strange, but he could understand her clearly. Sit down, Jinwoo said. We need to talk. She sat back down, but kept her violet eyes on his face. During the months of questioning, she had learned to watch humans carefully. She had learned that they showed their feelings in their faces, unlike her own people who shared thoughts directly through their minds. "You will be staying here now," Jinwoo explained. "You will help with daily tasks. Cleaning, cooking, organizing. Files. In return, you get better food and more freedom to move around the base." Nari nodded. "I understand." "There are rules," Jinwoo continued. "No leaving these quarters without permission. No contact with outside communications. No weapons of any kind." "Yes, Commander." Jinwoo looked at her for a long moment. In the months since her capture, he had seen her only during official questioning sessions. Each time she had been polite but distant. She answered questions about Valith culture and language, but nothing about military matters. The intelligence officers were frustrated with her. "Why did you agree to this?" Jinwoo asked suddenly. Nari looked confused. "Sir, the rehabilitation program, you could have stayed in the detention center. Why choose to work?" She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "In detention, I sit in small room all day. Nothing to do, nothing to think about except—" She paused, searching for the right words. "Except things I cannot change." Jinwoo understood. He had seen what long imprisonment did to people. Even enemies needed something to occupy their minds. The first weeks were strange for both of them. Nari moved through his quarters like a ghost, completing her tasks quickly and quietly. She cleaned everything twice, organized his belongings with careful precision, and prepared meals from the special foods Dr. Park had identified as safe for her to eat. Jin-Woo tried to treat her like any other assigned aide, but it was difficult. She was too quiet, too careful. When he spoke to her, she would stop whatever she was doing and give him her complete attention. When he left for duty, she would stand by the window until he returned. "You don't have to watch for me," he told her one evening. "I was not watching for you," she replied. "I was looking at the sky. The stars here are different from my home." Jinwoo joined her at the window. Outside, the alien constellations spread across the dark sky. "Do you miss it?" "Your home?" Nari was quiet for so long that Jinwoo thought she would not answer. Finally, she said, "I miss the idea of home. But the place I came from, that was not truly home for me." Jinwoo wanted to ask what she meant, but something in her voice warned him away from the subject. Their first real conversation happened during the 4th week. Jinwoo had been working late on reports when he heard a sound from the kitchen area. He found Nari sitting on the floor, holding a broken plate. She looked up at him with wide eyes. "I am sorry, Commander. I was trying to reach the high shelf and it fell." Jinwoo saw a small cut on her hand where a piece of the plate had scratched her. Purple blood spotted her fingers. "Are you hurt?" "It is nothing." But Jinwoo was already getting the medical kit. He knelt down beside her and carefully cleaned the cut. Her blood was warm, just like human blood, but it glowed slightly in the dim light. "Your people heal quickly," he said, applying a bandage. "Yes, but not as quickly as we once did." Nari looked at her bandaged hand. "The war has changed many things about us." "What do you mean?" Nari seemed to realize she had said too much. She started to stand up. "I should clean this mess. Wait." Jinwoo caught her arm gently. "I'm not asking as a commander. I'm asking as ... as someone who's curious." She looked at him for a long moment. Then she sat back down. "My people used to be different. Before the war, we were scholars and artists. We shared thoughts and feelings freely, but war requires soldiers, not thinkers. Those who could not become hard and cold were considered weak." "And you were considered weak?" "Yes." She said it simply, without shame or anger. "I feel too much. I think too much about things that do not matter for fighting. My telepathic abilities are small compared to others. In wartime, this makes me useless to my people." Jinwoo helped her pick up the pieces of the broken plate. "Maybe your people are wrong about what makes someone useful." Nari looked at him with surprise. "You do not think feeling is weakness?" "No," Jinwoo said. "I think feeling is what makes us fight harder. We protect what we love, not what we hate." That night, Jinwoo lay awake thinking about their conversation. He had never considered that the enemy might have their own outcasts and misfits. He had always thought of the Valeth as a unified force of warriors who all thought and felt the same way. The change in their relationship was gradual. Nari began asking questions about human customs. Why did humans eat together instead of separately? Why did they keep pictures of dead relatives? Why did they tell stories that were not true? Just for entertainment? Jinwoo found himself looking forward to these conversations. After long days of military duties and war planning, talking with Nari was like stepping into a different world. She saw things differently than any human he had ever met. Her questions made him think about his own culture in new ways. Why do humans sing? She asked one evening while preparing their dinner. What do you mean? Music serves no practical purpose. It does not help with hunting or building or fighting. Yet all humans seem to do it. Jinwoo thought about this. It makes us feel things. Good things, usually. It connects us to each other and to memories. My people do not make music, Nari said quietly. We share feelings directly through our minds. We never needed songs. That sounds lonely, Jinwoo said without thinking. Nari stopped stirring the pot and looked at him. Yes, she said. It is. Their breakthrough came during the 7th week. Jinwoo returned from a particularly difficult day to find Nari sitting by the window, not moving. She usually greeted him when he came home, but today she just stared outside. Nari? Is everything all right? She did not answer at first. Then, she said, I received news today. From the intelligence officers? My home planet ... There was a big battle. Many cities were destroyed. Jinwoo sat down across from her. I'm sorry. I did not have family there, no friends who would miss me. But it was still the place where I was born. She looked at him with those violet eyes, and Jinwoo could see tears starting to form. Now I truly have no home to return to. Without thinking, Jinwoo reached out and touched her hand. You have a place here, for as long as you need it. Nari stared at their joined hands, his human fingers over her pale blue ones. Why are you kind to me? Your people and my people are enemies. Jinwoo had asked himself the same question many times. Because you're not my enemy. You're just someone far from home who's trying to survive. That evening, for the first time since her capture, Nari smiled. 6 months had passed since Nari became part of Jinwoo's daily life. The base had settled into a routine around her presence. Most soldiers ignored her, but a few had begun to nod politely when they saw her in the halls. Dr. Park sometimes asked her questions about Valeth medicine. Even Colonel Han had admitted she was less trouble than expected. The crisis began on a Tuesday morning. Jinwoo woke to alarms blaring throughout the base. He dressed quickly and found Nari already awake, standing by the window with a worried expression. What is happening? She asked. Jinwoo checked his communicator. Supply convoy got hit by raiders. We're cut off for at least 2 weeks, maybe more. The news got worse throughout the day. The raiders had not just destroyed the supply ships, they had poisoned the emergency supply depot on the nearest planet. Food, medicine, and equipment that was supposed to last for months was now useless. By evening, Colonel Han called a meeting of all senior staff. Jinwoo sat in the conference room listening to the grim reports. They had enough standard human food for maybe 10 days if they rationed carefully. After that, they would have to rely on emergency rations that tasted like cardboard and provided barely enough nutrition to survive. What about the prisoner? Asked Major Park, the supply officer. She eats different food than us. Her supplies will run out in 3 days. Jinwoo felt his stomach tighten. Nari's food came from special shipments that arrived monthly. Her body could not process most human foods. They would make her sick or provide no nutrition at all. We could contact her people, suggested Lieutenant Kim. Arrange for a medical evacuation. Absolutely not, Colonel Han said firmly. We don't negotiate with the enemy, and we don't give back valuable prisoners because of supply problems. Then what do we do? Major Park asked. Jinwoo looked around the table at the tired faces of his fellow officers. They were all thinking the same thing, but no one wanted to say it out loud. If Neri could not eat human food and they had no Valith food, then she would starve. There might be another option, Jinwoo said slowly. Some human foods might work. If we process them differently, and I can share my personal rations with her. That's not wise, Commander, Colonel Han said. You need your strength for your duties. I can manage on less food for a few weeks, sir, the colonel studied Jinwoo's face. This prisoner has become important to you? It was not really a question, but Jinwoo answered anyway. She's provided valuable information about Valith culture and language. Losing her now would be a waste of months of work? Colonel Han nodded slowly. Very well. But if this affects your performance, I'll reassign her to the detention center. When Jinwoo returned to his quarters that night, he found Nari preparing dinner as usual. She had made a simple meal from her remaining supplies, but Jinwoo could see the portions were smaller than normal. You heard about the supply problem. He said, yes, the other prisoners are worried too. Nari set his plate on the table. But you should not be concerned about me. I can survive on very little food for some time. Jinwoo sat down across from her. How long? Maybe 2 weeks. 3, if I am careful. That's not good enough. Jinwoo pushed his plate toward her. Starting tomorrow, we share everything equally. Nari stared at the plate. I cannot take your food. Why not? Because ... she struggled with the words. Because my people would never do this. If one of us was captured by humans and humans were starving, they would not share their food with us. They would let us die, Jinwoo thought about this. Maybe that's the difference between us and them. It makes no sense, Nari said. I am your enemy, are you? Jinwoo asked. Right now, sitting here in my quarters, helping me with my daily life, talking with me about music and books and the stars outside our window, are you my enemy? Nari looked at him for a long moment. No, she said quietly. Right now, I am not your enemy. The next few days were difficult. Jinwoo cut his own food portions in half and gave the extra to Nari. She protested every time, but he insisted. Dr. Park had found a few human foods that her body could process, simple grains and certain vegetables, but they provided poor nutrition for her species. By the end of the first week, both of them were losing weight. Jinwoo felt tired all the time, and Nari moved more slowly than usual. But they continued their evening conversations, and Jinwoo noticed that something had changed between them. Tell me about your family, Nari said one evening as they shared a small meal of rice and processed vegetables. Jinwoo talked about his parents, who ran a small farm on Earth, about his sister, who was studying to be a doctor, about his brother, who died in the war. As he spoke, Nari listened with complete attention, asking questions that showed she really cared about his answers. You miss them very much, she observed. Yes, I haven't seen them in 3 years. Jinwoo looked at her. What about your family? Nari was quiet for a moment. My family gave me away when I was young. To the scholars because I was not strong enough to be a warrior. The scholars took care of me, but they did not love me. When the war started, they decided I was too weak to be useful. That is why I was alone on that ship. They were sending me away. Jinwoo felt anger rise in his chest. They abandoned you? It is the way of my people. Only the strong survive. Only the useful are kept. Nari looked at her hands. I have never been useful to anyone before. That's not true. It is true, I have no special talents. My telepathic abilities are weak. I am not a good fighter or a brilliant thinker. I am just ... ordinary. Jinwoo reached across the table and took her hand. You help me every day. You keep my quarters clean and organized. You cook meals and manage my schedule. You listen when I need to talk and give me interesting conversations when I need to think about something other than war. Those are simple tasks, Nari said. Maybe, but you do them with care. You make my life better. Jinwoo squeezed her hand gently. That makes you useful to me. More than useful, important. Nari stared at him with wide violet eyes. I do not understand. You don't have to be the strongest or the smartest to matter. You just have to care and try your best and be kind when you can. Jinwoo smiled at her. You do all of those things." That night, Jinwoo lay in his bed thinking about their conversation. In the months since Nari had come to live with him, his quarters had become more than just a place to sleep. They had become a home. Not because of the furniture or the location, but because of the person who shared it with him. He thought about how she always made sure his favorite tea was ready when he came home from difficult days. How she had learned to prepare human foods in ways that reminded him of his mother's cooking. How she asked thoughtful questions about his work and his dreams and his fears. When had she stopped being a prisoner and become a partner? The answer came to him suddenly. It had happened gradually, so slowly that he had not noticed. Every shared meal, every quiet conversation, every small act of kindness had built something between them. Trust, friendship, and maybe something more. Jinwoo sat up in bed, startled by his own thoughts. He cared about Nari, really cared about her, not as a commander responsible for a prisoner, but as a man who had found someone special. The realization should have worried him. She was an alien, an enemy alien. Their peoples were at war. Any relationship between them was impossible, maybe even dangerous, but lying there in the dark, listening to the soft sounds of her breathing from the next room, Jinwoo found that he did not care about any of those obstacles. For the first time in years, he felt truly happy. The supply ships arrived 2 days early, loaded with food and medicine and news from the outer colonies. The crisis was over, and life on the base returned to normal. But things between Jinwoo and Nari had changed forever. They no longer shared meals out of necessity, but they continued anyway. They no longer needed to ration everything carefully, but they had learned to find joy in simple things. Their conversations grew deeper and more personal. Their silences became comfortable instead of awkward. Other people on the base began to notice. Jinwoo caught soldiers looking at him strangely when Nari walked beside him in the halls. Colonel Han made comments about getting too attached to prisoners. Dr. Park asked careful questions about whether Jinwoo was maintaining proper perspective. Jinwoo ignored them all. For 6 months, he had watched Nari transform from a frightened, injured enemy into someone he trusted completely, someone who made him laugh and think and feel things he had forgotten he could feel. Maybe it was wrong. Maybe it was dangerous. Maybe it would cause problems he could not imagine. But when Nari smiled at him across their dinner table, or asked him about human poetry, or stood beside him looking out at the alien stars, Jinwoo knew that nothing had ever felt more right in his entire life. 1 year had passed since Nari's capture, and Jinwoo had almost forgotten what life was like without her. Their daily routines had become natural and comfortable. She would wake early to prepare breakfast while he finished his morning exercises. They would eat together, discussing his plans for the day or her observations about human behavior. When he returned from duty, she would be waiting with tea and questions about his work. The alarm that woke them at 03:00 hours was different from the usual base alerts. This one was urgent and continuous, the signal for incoming ships. Jinwoo dressed quickly while Nari stood by the window, her face pale in the flashing red lights. "Stay here," Jinwoo told her as he grabbed his weapon. "Don't leave these quarters for any reason." The command center was full of activity when Jinwoo arrived. Officers hurried between stations, calling out readings and coordinates. On the main screen, a formation of ships hung in space above the planet. They were beautiful and deadly, sleek Valith vessels with their characteristic blue hulls and curved wings. 15 ships, reported Lieutenant Kim. Heavy cruisers and escort fighters. They're holding position just outside our defense grid. Colonel Han stood before the main display, his face grim. "Are they here to attack?" "No, sir," said communications. "Officer Lee, they're broadcasting on diplomatic channels." "They want to talk." Jinwoo felt his heart sink. He knew what this was about before anyone said the words. "They want their prisoner back," Colonel Han said. "The female we've been holding. They're offering to exchange her for 5 of our people they captured last month." The room fell silent. 5 human prisoners for 1 alien. It was a good deal by any military standard. Jinwoo should have been happy. 5 of his fellow soldiers would come home. But all he could think about was Nari alone in his quarters, probably knowing exactly what was happening. "Sir," Jinwoo said carefully, "has anyone asked the prisoner what she wants?" Colonel Han turned to look at him. "Since when do prisoners get a choice about prisoner exchanges, Commander?" "Since we've spent a year learning about their culture and getting valuable intelligence from voluntary cooperation," Jinwoo replied. "If we force this exchange, we lose everything we've gained. And if we don't make this exchange, we lose 5 good soldiers." The colonel's voice was sharp. "I'm sorry, Jinwoo. I know you've worked closely with her, but this is bigger than one person's preferences." The next 24 hours passed like a nightmare. Jinwoo tried to focus on the preparations for the exchange, but his mind kept drifting to Nari. When he finally returned to his quarters late that evening, he found her sitting by the window as usual. But something was different. She looked smaller somehow and very still. "You know," he said. It was not a question. Yes, Nari did not turn away from the window. Word travels quickly on a military base, even to prisoners. Jinwoo sat down across from her. "Nari, I want you to know that I tried to find another way. I asked if you could have a choice in this, and what did they say?" "They said prisoners don't get choices." Nari finally turned to look at him. Her violet eyes were calm, but Jinwoo could see pain behind them. "They are right. This is how war works. People are traded like objects. It doesn't have to be this way." "Yes, it does." Nari stood up and walked to the kitchen area. "Would you like tea? I should prepare some while I still can." Jinwoo watched her move around the small kitchen with familiar efficiency. She knew where everything was, how he liked his tea prepared, which cups were his favorites. Over the months, she had made this space her own as much as his. "What will happen to you when you go back?" he asked. Nari was quiet for a long moment. "I do not know. Much has changed since I left. The war has made my people harder, more suspicious. They may not trust someone who has lived among humans for so long, but you're one of them. Your own people, am I?" Nari brought him his tea and sat down. "A year ago I would have said yes, but now I think differently than I did before. I see things differently. I am not the same person who crashed on this planet." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, drinking tea and watching the alien stars through the window. Jinwoo tried to memorize everything about this moment, the way Nari held her cup with both hands, the soft sound of her breathing, the faint blue glow of her skin in the dim light. "Jinwoo," Nari said suddenly, "there is something I need to tell you. Something important." "What is it?" She was quiet for so long that Jinwoo thought she had changed her mind. Then she spoke very softly. "I have not been completely honest with you." Jinwoo felt something cold settle in his stomach. "What do you mean?" "When I first came here, I told your intelligence officers that I was just a scholar. Someone unimportant who was being sent away because I was useless." Nari looked down at her hands. "That was mostly true, but not completely." "Go on." "I was being sent away, yes, but not because I was useless. Because I disagreed with the war. Because I believed that peace with humans might be possible." Nari looked up at him. "I was part of a small group that wanted to find ways to end the fighting." Jinwoo stared at her. "You were a peace activist?" "A foolish dreamer, my people would say, but yes." Nari's voice grew stronger. "We believe that both our species could benefit from cooperation instead of destruction. We studied human culture and language, looking for common ground. Why didn't you tell us this before?" "Because I was afraid. If your people knew I was a political dissident, they might have used me for propaganda. If my people found out, they would have considered me a traitor." Nari set down her teacup. "But living here with you, seeing how humans really behave instead of how my people describe them, I know I was right." Jinwoo felt his world shifting around him. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that this year has been the most important of my life. Not because I learned about human military procedures or technology, but because I learned about human hearts." Nari leaned forward. "You shared your food with me when you had little. You treated me with kindness when you had every reason to hate me. You made me feel like I'd belong somewhere for the first time in my life. And alright, let me finish. Her violet eyes were bright with unshed tears. In my culture, we share thoughts directly through our minds. But my telepathic abilities are weak, remember? I have always been alone inside my own thoughts. But with you, even without telepathy, I never felt alone. Your words and actions showed me what you were thinking and feeling. It was like being connected to someone else for the first time. Jinwoo reached across the table and took her hands. I know exactly what you mean. Do you? Nari looked at their joined hands. Because there is something else? Something that will sound crazy to you. Tell me. My weak telepathic abilities, they have been changing since I came here, adapting. I am starting to sense human emotions. In ways I never could before. Nari looked up at him. And what I sense from you. She did not finish the sentence, but she did not need to. Jinwoo could see the answer in her eyes. I feel it too, he said quietly. They sat there in the dim light, holding hands across the small table, both of them knowing that everything had changed. Tomorrow, Nari would be taken away. Tomorrow, they would be enemies again, separated by war and species and impossible distances. But tonight, in this small room that had become their shared home, they were just two people who had found something precious in the middle of a war. Something worth protecting, even if they could not keep it. I don't want you to go, Jinwoo said. I do not want to go either, Nari squeezed his hands. But Jinwoo, maybe this is not an ending, maybe it is a beginning. What do you mean? If I go back to my people, I can tell them what I have learned here. I can show them that humans are not the monsters they believe you to be. Maybe someday there could be real peace between our peoples. Jinwoo thought about this. It sounded like an impossible dream, but then again, a year ago he would have said that caring about a Valith prisoner was impossible too. Promise me something, he said. What? Promise me you'll be careful. Promise me you'll find a way to stay safe, whatever happens. I promise. Nari smiled, and even with tears in her eyes, it was the most beautiful thing Jinwoo had ever seen. And you must promise me something too. Anything. Promise me you will remember that not all of my people are your enemies. Promise me you will remember that some of us dream of peace. I promise. They talked until dawn, sharing memories and hopes and fears. When the time came for the exchange, they would have to say goodbye in front of dozens of soldiers from both sides. They would have to pretend that their year together had been nothing more than a military arrangement. But here, in these last private hours, they could be honest about what they had found together. Love that crossed the boundaries of species. And war. Understanding that could bridge any gap between different peoples. Hope that somewhere, somehow, impossible things could become possible. 2 days remained before the prisoner exchange. The entire base buzzed with activity as both sides prepared for the complex operation. Valith ships maintained their position in orbit while human negotiators worked out the final details. Jinwoo tried to focus on his duties, but his mind kept drifting to Nari and their conversation from the night before. She had been different since their talk. More quiet than usual, but also more focused, as if she was preparing herself for something difficult. She still performed her daily tasks, but Jinwoo caught her staring out the window more often, her violet eyes distant and thoughtful, that evening. As Jinwoo finished his reports, Nari approached his desk with a formal expression that reminded him of their early days together. Commander, she said, may I request a private meeting with you? Jinwoo looked up from his datapad. Something in her tone made him set aside his work completely. Of course, what is it? Not here. Nari glanced around the quarters they had shared for so many months. Could we walk? I need to tell you something. Important, and I think better when I am moving. Jinwoo checked the time. Evening recreation period had just begun, which meant the base corridors would be mostly empty. All right, but you know the rules about where you can go? I know. The observation deck on level 7 is permitted for prisoners with escort. The observation deck was a small area with reinforced windows that looked out over the planet's strange landscape. Jinwoo had never taken Nari there before. but he had often thought she might enjoy seeing more than just the view from his quarters. They walked through the quiet corridors in silence. A few soldiers nodded to Jinwoo as they passed, glancing curiously at Nari but saying nothing. After so many months, most of the base personnel had grown used to seeing them together. The observation deck was empty when they arrived. Through the large windows, the red soil of Kepler 442 stretched toward distant mountains. The planet's two small moons hung low in the purple sky, casting strange shadows across the alien landscape. "It is beautiful," Nari said, pressing her hand against the cool glass. "Different from my homeworld, but beautiful in its own way." Jinwoo stood beside her, watching her profile as she studied the view. "What did you want to tell me?" Nari was quiet for a long moment. Then she turned away from the window to face him directly. "Jinwoo, what I am about to say will sound crazy. It might even sound dangerous. But I need you to listen to everything before you react." "I'm listening." "Good." Nari took a deep breath. "First, I need to tell you the complete truth about my telepathic abilities. I said they were weak, and compared to other Valith, they are. But weak does not mean absent." Jinwoo felt a chill run down his spine. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that I have been able to sense your emotions, at least partially, for months. Now, not your thoughts. I cannot read minds the way strong telepaths can. But feelings, especially strong ones, come through clearly." Nari's voice was steady, but Jinwoo could see tension in her shoulders. "I know this violates the rules about telepathic contact with prisoners. I know I should have reported this ability when I was questioned. Why didn't you?" "Because I was afraid you would stop trusting me, and because—" Nari looked down at her hands. "Because I was selfish." "Your emotions felt warm and safe to me. Being connected to someone else's feelings, even in this small way, was the closest thing to home I had experienced since my capture." Jinwoo tried to process this information. "What exactly can you sense?" "When you are angry or sad or worried. When something makes you happy. When you are thinking about people you miss." Nari looked up at him. "And recently, when you look at me, I can sense something else. Something that matches what I feel when I look at you." Jinwoo's heart was racing now. "Nari—" "Let me finish, please." She moved closer to him, her violet eyes intense. "The second thing I need to tell you is about my time here on this base. Living in your quarters, sharing your daily life, learning about human culture. None of that was just playing a role or trying to survive captivity." "What do you mean?" "I mean that somewhere along the way, this stopped being imprisonment and started being something else entirely." Nari's voice grew softer. "Jinwoo, in my culture, we have a concept that does not translate well into human language. It means chosen family, people who become more important to you than blood relatives, people who make you feel like you belong somewhere." Jinwoo waited, not trusting himself to speak. "You became my chosen family," Nari continued. "This room we shared, these conversations we had, these meals we prepared together, they gave me something I had never experienced before. A sense of home that was not based on duty or obligation, but on genuine caring." "I felt the same way," Jinwoo said quietly. "I know, I could sense it." Nari smiled, but tears were forming in her eyes. "And that brings me to the third thing I need to tell you, the most important thing." She paused, looking out at the alien landscape through the window. When she spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper. "I love you, Jinwoo." The words hung in the air between them like something fragile and precious. Jinwoo felt his world tilt and reshape itself around this simple statement. "I know it is impossible," Nari continued. "I know our peoples are enemies. I know I am a prisoner and you are my guard. I know that in 2 days I will be taken away and we may never see each other again." She turned to face him fully. "But I needed you to know that what I feel for you is real. It is not gratitude or Stockholm Syndrome or any kind of psychological manipulation. It is love, pure and simple." Jinwoo reached out and touched her face gently. "Nari, I love you too." She closed her eyes and leaned into his touch. "I hoped you did, but I was afraid to believe it. How could you not know, if you can sense my emotions?" "Because love feels different for my people than it does for humans." Our emotions are shared directly, merged together until two beings become almost one mind. What I sense from you is more complex. Individual, but connected. Separate, but caring. It took me months to understand what it meant. Jinwoo pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly against his chest. She fit perfectly there, as if they had been designed to complete each other. What are we going to do? I do not know, Nari said, her voice muffled against his shoulder. But Jinwoo, there is one more thing, something that might change everything. Tell. Me, Nari pulled back to look at him. The messages I have been sending to the Valeth resistance groups, they were not just sharing information about human culture and technology. I have been sending them detailed reports about how I have been treated here. About the kindness you showed me, about the way humans can choose compassion over revenge. Jinwoo stared at her. You've been in contact with resistance groups? Yes. Using a hidden communication device I built from spare parts in the maintenance areas. I know this sounds like espionage, but please listen. Nari gripped his hands tightly. The resistance groups are not trying to help the war effort. They are trying to end it. They want peace, just like I do. What have you been telling them? Everything. How you shared your food with me when supplies were short. How you treated my injuries with the same care you would give a human. How you listened to my thoughts and treated my opinions as valuable even though I was your prisoner. Nari's eyes were bright with excitement now. Jinwoo, some of them are starting to believe that peace might really be possible. Jinwoo felt hope and fear warring in his chest. This is incredibly dangerous, Nari. If your own people find out you've been working with resistance groups, they will consider me a traitor. I know, Nari's voice was calm. But if I go back to my people in 2 days, I will not be going back as the same person who left. I will be going back as someone who has seen another way. Someone who can prove that humans and Valeth can live together in peace. And if they don't listen to you, then at least I will have tried. Nari smiled at him. Jinwoo, you taught me something important. You taught me that sometimes the right thing to do is also the dangerous thing to do, that sometimes love requires courage. Jinwoo kissed her then, soft and gentle at first, then with all the passion and tenderness that had been building between them for months. When they finally broke apart, both of them were crying. I don't want to lose you, Jinwoo whispered. You will not lose me, Nari replied. No matter what happens, no matter how far apart we are, you will always be part of me. The love we have found together, it is stronger than war, stronger than distance, stronger than the fear that keeps our peoples apart. They stood together on the observation deck, holding each other and watching the strange stars appear in the alien sky. Tomorrow would bring preparations for the exchange. The day after would bring separation and uncertainty and possibly danger. For both of them, but tonight they had this moment. This truth spoken aloud between them. This love that had grown from impossible circumstances and now felt like the most natural thing in the universe. Promise me something, Jinwoo said. What? Promise me that whatever happens, you'll remember that loved one. That despite everything trying to keep us apart, we found each other anyway. I promise, Nari looked up at him. And you must promise me something too. Anything. Promise me that if someday, somehow, peace becomes possible between our peoples, you will be brave enough to help build it. I promise. They stayed. The morning of the exchange dawned clear and cold. Jinwoo woke before the alarm, his mind already racing with everything that needed to happen in the next few hours. Beside him, Nari was already awake, staring at the ceiling with her violet eyes distant and thoughtful. Today, she said simply. Today, Jinwoo agreed. They had spent their last night together talking until dawn, sharing memories and making plans that seemed both hopeful and impossible. Now, in the gray morning light, reality felt heavy and unavoidable. Jinwoo's communicator buzzed with an urgent message. Colonel Han wanted to see him immediately. Jinwoo dressed quickly while Nari prepared breakfast, a simple meal that neither of them would likely be able to eat. I have to go, Jinwoo said, but I'll be back before ... I know, Nari touched his hand briefly. Go, do what you must do. The command center was full of activity when Jinwoo arrived. Officers moved between stations, coordinating with the Valith ships in orbit and preparing for the complex exchange procedure. But something felt different. The mood was tense in a way that went beyond normal pre-operation nerves. Colonel Han stood before the main display, his face grim. When he saw Jinwoo, he gestured for him to approach. "Commander, we have a problem," the colonel said quietly. "Intelligence intercepted some communications last night. It appears your prisoner has been more active than we realized." Jinwoo felt ice form in his stomach. "What do you mean, sir?" "She's been sending messages. Hidden transmissions to Valith. Resistance groups." Colonel Han's voice was controlled, but Jinwoo could hear the anger underneath. "We found the communication device hidden in maintenance shaft 7. Clever work. She built it from spare parts over several months." Jinwoo tried to keep his expression neutral. "What kind of messages?" "Intelligence is still decoding them. But the basic content is clear. She's been sending detailed reports about our base operations, our treatment of prisoners, and our cultural practices." The colonel turned to face Jinwoo fully. "The question is, how much did you know about this?" "Sir? Don't play games with me, Commander. You've spent more time with this prisoner than anyone else on the base. You've developed a personal relationship with her that goes beyond normal military protocols. Did you know she was communicating with the enemy?" Jinwoo met the colonel's gaze steadily. "If I had known about any unauthorized communications, I would have reported it immediately, sir. It was technically true, even though it left out important details." Colonel Han studied Jinwoo's face for a long moment. "I want to believe that, Commander, but this situation has become very complicated." The colonel turned back to the main display. "The Valith ships in orbit have been joined by 3 more vessels. All of them are broadcasting demands for the prisoner's immediate return." "That doesn't sound like a problem, sir." "We were planning to return her anyway." "Yes, but now we also have human intelligence ships arriving from the outer colonies. They want to question the prisoner about her resistance contacts before we release her." Colonel Han's voice grew harder. "And then there's the real problem, sir. The Valith resistance groups she's been contacting? Some of them have been classified as terrorist organizations by both governments. If we release her now and she returns to work with these groups, we could be seen as supporting terrorist activities." Jinwoo felt the world spinning around him. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying the exchange might be called off. The prisoner might remain here indefinitely while both governments decide what to do with her." The meeting continued for another hour, but Jinwoo barely heard the details. His mind was fixed on one terrible fact: Nari might never get to go home. Worse, she might never get the chance to work for peace between their peoples. Her dreams of ending the war could die in a prison cell. When Jinwoo finally returned to his quarters, he found Nari sitting by the window in her travel clothes, the simple gray uniform that all exchanged prisoners wore. Her small bag of personal belongings sat beside her chair. "You look troubled," she said without turning around. "Nari, we need to talk." She turned to face him, and Jinwoo could see that she already knew something was wrong. "They found the communication device." "Yes, how did you know?" "I felt the change in the base's emotional atmosphere this morning. Fear, anger, confusion, all directed toward me." Nari stood up slowly. "What will happen now?" Jinwoo told her. "Everything. The intercepted messages, the arriving intelligence ships, the possibility that the exchange would be cancelled." As he spoke, Nari's face grew pale, but she listened without interruption. "I see," she said when he finished. "So my attempt to build peace may have destroyed any chance for peace." "Maybe not." Jinwoo moved closer to her. "Nari, there might be another option, something that nobody has considered yet." "What do you mean? What if you didn't go back to the Valith? What if you stayed here but not as a prisoner?" Nari stared at him. "I do not understand. Asylum, political refugee status. You could request protection from human authorities, claim that returning to your people would put you in danger because of your peace activities. Is such a thing possible? I don't know, but it might be worth trying." Jinwoo took her hands. Nari, if you go back now with all this suspicion about your resistance contacts, what do you think will happen to you? Nari was quiet for a long moment. At best, I would be questioned extensively and then exiled to a remote colony. At worst, ... She did not finish the sentence. At worst, they would execute you as a traitor. Yes, Jinwoo squeezed her hands, then don't go back. Stay here, work with human authorities to establish communication with the reasonable people among your own kind. Help us find a way to end this war that doesn't require more death. Jinwoo. Even if such a thing were possible, what kind of life would I have here? I would still be an alien among humans. Still alone, except for you. You wouldn't be alone. And you wouldn't be the only alien here forever. Jinwoo's voice grew more excited as he thought through the possibilities. If you stayed, and if you could help establish real communication with Valith peace groups, then maybe other refugees would follow. Maybe we could build something new. Before Nari could respond, Jinwoo's communicator chimed with an urgent message. Colonel Han wanted both of them in his office immediately. They walked through the base corridors together one last time. Soldiers stared openly now, whispering among themselves about the prisoner who had been sending secret messages and the commander who had gotten too close to her. Jinwoo ignored them all, focusing only on Nari walking beside him with quiet dignity. Colonel. Han's office was crowded when they arrived. The colonel sat behind his desk, flanked by two intelligence officers Jinwoo didn't recognize. Captain Park from military intelligence stood near the window, his face unreadable. Prisoner Nari, Colonel Han began formally, you are accused of conducting unauthorized communications with enemy resistance groups while in human custody. How do you respond to these charges? Nari stood straight and spoke clearly. I do not deny the communications, but I dispute that they were enemy communications. The groups I contacted seek peace between our peoples, not continued war. That's not your determination to make, one of the intelligence officers said sharply. Several of these groups have been linked to terrorist activities. Then your intelligence is flawed, Nari replied calmly. I've been in contact with scholars and peace activists, not terrorists. Jinwoo stepped forward. Sir, I request permission to speak. Colonel Han nodded. The prisoner's actions, while technically unauthorized, may have opened communication channels that could benefit both our peoples. Instead of punishing her, we should consider how to use these contacts constructively. Commander, the intelligence officer said, your objectivity in this matter is clearly compromised. Your personal relationship with the prisoner has affected your judgment. Maybe it has, Jinwoo said. But maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe caring about someone from the other side has given me perspective that pure military thinking cannot provide. The room fell silent. Colonel Han studied both Jinwoo and Nari for a long moment. The Valith ships are demanding an immediate response, the colonel said finally. Either we proceed with the exchange as planned or we formally declare the prisoner a security threat and transfer her to a maximum security facility. Sir, Jinwoo said quickly, there's a third option. The prisoner could request political asylum. She could stay here voluntarily and work with us to establish legitimate peace communications. Absolutely not, the intelligence officer said. The political implications would be enormous. So are the implications of continuing this war indefinitely? Jinwoo replied. Colonel Han held up a hand for silence. Then he looked directly at Nari. What do you want to do? Nari was quiet for a long moment. Jinwoo could see her thinking, weighing possibilities and consequences. When she spoke, her voice was clear and determined. I want to stay, she said. Not as a prisoner, and not just because I am afraid to return to my people. I want to stay because I believe I can do more good here than anywhere else. Explain. 4. The past year, I have learned that humans and Valith are not so different as we have been taught. We both want security for our families. We both value knowledge and beauty and hope for the future. The war continues because neither side really understands the other. Nari looked around.